So I would like to share with you a little bit more of my synthesizer history and talk about that most mysterious and near mythical synthesizer, the Yamaha CS-80. Now, I made a video about me and the Yamaha SY-77, which I called a synthesizer love story, sort of. So if we can continue the analogy, this would be an unrequited synthesizer love story. However, the story is not yet finished, so I don't know whether this has a happy ending or a sad ending. But let's start at the beginning. It was in the late 1970s. I was just out of nappies. Well, you need to allow me a little bit of artistic license. And I was gigging in local clubs, playing dance work and back in cabaret. Now, in this particular club, I was in a boy-girl duo were headlining, and they had with them a Yamaha CS-80. Now, I was aware of the synth because I'd read about it in music magazines, but I had never actually seen one, I had never heard one, and I had certainly never played one. Now, the guy in the duo was obviously so proud of his CS-80, he was delighted to give me a tour of it and let me play it, which I did for about 10 or 15 minutes during the interval. Now, I can remember only one thing, and that was I was totally blown away by the sound. Now, this is the late 1970s, and I didn't have a massive amount of prior synthesizer experience to compare it with, but it was an absolutely wonderful instrument to play. The CS-80 was launched in 1977 at an eye-watering, gobsmacking and bank-breaking price of almost $7,000. In the UK, it launched at £4,950. Now, if we adjust for inflation and take into account the average wages at the time, in today's money, that would be around £31,500. Now, if you want to know how I came up with that figure, I have another video card up there and a link in the description called Are Hardware Synths Too Expensive? And I explain how I come up with the how much would it cost now price, rather than simply use inflation, which I don't think is a good metric for determining how expensive something is. Anyway, at that sort of price or comparative price, the CS-80, it didn't even enter my sphere of, oh gosh, I will save up and buy one. It was just so far out of reach. So although I absolutely loved the thing after playing with it for 10 or 15 minutes, I just never thought I would have one. I didn't even aspire to it. What I did wonder, however, was how this boy-girl duo who were playing in a very low-level club. This was not a top arena club by any stretch of the imagination. I wondered how they could afford one of these. I didn't ask them. I was far too polite, being British. I can only imagine they took out a second and possibly third mortgage, sold their firstborn to Satan, and were in hock to the Yorkshire Mafia. Now, one possibly strange thing about that night, although I was gigging for 25 years or more, I had never seen this duo before, and I never saw them since. I can only hope they are living in a cottage somewhere with their firstborn, mortgage paid off, and are happily playing their Yamaha CS-80. That was a nice experience. The CS-80 went out of my mind until 1983 when Blade Runner was released. Now, as you probably know, if you are a synthesizer enthusiast, the music for Blade Runner was written by Vangelis, and the Yamaha CS-80 featured very heavily. Vangelis described it as the most important synthesizer of his career and the best analog synthesizer design. Now, I know a lot of musicians who are into synthesizers rate Blade Runner as one of the best movies of all time, and it's quite interesting because it was a genuine science fiction movie. It wasn't cowboys and Indians in space, and it did have a synthesizer futuristic soundtrack. So the whole thing came together to create a real science fiction movie and audio experience. So at the time, Blade Runner sort of popped the CS-80 back into my frame of reference, but it had been discontinued in 1980 and I still didn't give a thought to actually trying to acquire one. So let's fast forward 2 or 3 decades. It seems in fact that it's only fairly recent that the Yamaha CS-80 has come back into prominence. Now, I'm not entirely sure why that should be the case. It does sound very individual. There were only around 2,000 sold, I think, so that also gave them a level of scarcity. And over the years, the price of second-hand CS-80s have just gone through the roof. Now, at the time I'm making this video, it's in February 2022, I had a quick look on Reverb to see what the going rate was. So I'll just flick through some of these prices. Now, I don't know what you think. I think they are optimistic, shall we say, but obviously if people are putting them on at this price, then some people somewhere with a lot of money are buying them. Now, just a week or so before I was making this video, Pure Ambient Drone posted a video of a CS-80 on Reverb for $200,000. Now, I've had a look and it is no longer there, but I will leave a link to his video in the description if you want to check it out. So it either got snapped up, which I really very much doubt, or someone put it up for a laugh to see if anyone was, let's be honest, stupid enough to buy it. Or perhaps they revised the price to something a little more sensible, if you can call £99,000 sensible. So a genuine CS-80 is still way outside of my reach, but around 2017 or perhaps 18, I discovered Arturia's V Collection, which includes a software emulation of the CS-80. Now, in typical Arturia fashion, it has an absolutely superb interface. And again, in true Arturia fashion, it goes well beyond the capabilities of the original. It adds proper presets and effects and a whole range of other features. Now, if you want to check it out, you can get a demo, link in description of course, and there are actually two other software emulations. One is by Memory Moon, and that is called the ME80. You can check that one out as well. And there is also a free emulation. Now, I think the user interface leaves something to be desired, but if you can get past that, it has some very CS80-like sounds, and heck, it's free. There is a link in the description to the Arminator. Now, of course, there is an existing hardware emulation of the CS-80 called Deckard's Dream, and just in case you are not a Blade Runner fan, Deckard was the main character in Blade Runner, and it's produced by another Japanese company called the Black Corporation. Now, if you want one, you have to go on a waiting list. So the website doesn't seem to have been updated since last year, but it does quote the price at $3,749, but you do get free worldwide shipping for that. Now, if you're in the UK, that's roughly 2,750 Greater British pounds. So maybe that's not such a bad price. Now, one or two retailers in the UK do seem to sell this, although you will pay significantly more than £2,750 if you want to buy one from them. Now, although this is sort of tempting, it doesn't have the keyboard or any of the performance controls, and this is one of the things which made the Yamaha CS-80 so interesting. In 1977, it had polyphonic aftertouch. Now, not many synthesizers today have a polyphonic aftertouch keyboard, so this was absolutely unique in the 70s. It also had a ribbon controller running along the top of the keyboard, which you could use for pitch bends and trills and glissando or glissandi. So there is a lot of performance built into the CS-80, and although Deckard's Dream may react to this data, it doesn't have the keyboard or the ribbon controller, so I'm just hanging fire on that one. Now, to give my hope or expectations of ever getting a CS-80 a bit of a boost, in 2019 Yamaha apparently posed a question to its users in a forum, and they asked, would you like to see a CS-80 reissue, and if so, would you like the original version or an updated version? Now, Yamaha doesn't really have a history of reissuing old products. Now, I cannot find any other information about this on the web. However, unlike Behringer, which we will get to in a second, most of the other musical instrument companies do not make a habit of announcing products before they are released. So I have heard nothing more about the Yamaha's potential CS-80 reissue. So if you have any information about this at all, then thousands or hundreds of thousands of synthesizer users, I think, would be very interested. Now, around the same time, and possibly because of Yamaha's question, Behringer announced that they were working on a CS-80 clone, and Behringer of course has a history of cloning vintage equipment. So this does appear to be a slightly more probable product, but I think a lot of people would really like to see Yamaha release an updated version. So in true Behringer form, we get drips of information and news about how the development is going. The most recent information I can find about the progress of Behringer's CS-80, which is to be called apparently the DS-80, is that development is continuing and they have made certain breakthroughs. This is according to one of their posts on Facebook, and I will leave a link to that in the description if you want to read about it. However, Behringer does not have a good track record as far as announcing it as developing a product and actually releasing it. Now, I can only imagine that trying to recreate a CS-80 is no mean feat. They've been working on it for a couple of years and they say it is nowhere near completed. So I think we are most unlikely to see it this year, and I doubt we will see it in 2023 either. Behringer actually demoed products in 2021, including the OBX-A clone, which seemed pretty much complete, and I think the Poly 800. And they have not yet made an appearance a year later. So, however, all of this still gives us hope that we will one day see an affordable CS-80 or CS-80 clone. So the story has not yet ended. The fat lady is not yet singing, but perhaps she is in the wings warming up. And my synthesizer love for the CS-80 is partially requited in the Arturia CS-80 V. So let me ask you, do you have or have you had a CS-80? Are there any other synthesizers which at the time were just so far out of your reach that you didn't even aspire to them? And I guess the ultimate question is, would you like a Yamaha CS-80? Now, personally, to be honest, I really would not like one of these vintage instruments. They are 40 to 45 years old, and I can't help but think they would have fairly high maintenance costs. So my wish, if you like, is that someone will release a clone made from more modern, reliable components. And again, to be totally honest, my wish would be for this to come from Yamaha and for it to be an enhanced and updated version. I suspect Behringer will give us the original. Now, I am not so enamored of the CS-80 that I cannot appreciate how enhancements might enhance it. You can see part of what might be done in Arturia's CS-80 V. Whether that's going to happen, who knows? If you want to speculate in the comments, then that would be very interesting. So that is my unrequited love story of the Yamaha CS-80. If there are any updates, I will be sure to keep you informed. So I hope you found this interesting, perhaps a little entertaining, and maybe it made you think of a synthesizer that you longed for back in the day, or even a more modern synthesizer which was just so expensive. If you did enjoy this video and like synthesizers and synthesis and electronic music, then maybe you would like to consider subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell. Thank you. So you get informed. So you get informed of new videos as soon as I release them. And of course, the big thumb is a big help as well. So thank you as always for watching my videos and spending time with me. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you again soon in the next one.